Well, first off, what was the objective for this particular lesson plan?
To get students to think about metacognition, about how they think about their, or how we humans have the ability about to think about our thinking. Not, I don't think, yeah, I think only humans are able to do that, of course.
Right. So this is really just an introductory to like what is metacognition, what are the basics of metacognition, and you're able to get the student, in this case Faith, to try and just have a foundational understanding of metacognition. Good.
Yeah.
So I think you hit that objective. Okay. I like the fact that in the beginning you were just very straight up, like, this is metacognition, this is what we're talking about. Just out of curiosity, what grade level is this a targeted lesson for?
5th grade.
5th grade. Okay. So thinking about your students, metacognition is something that they're probably just not familiar with at all at 5th grade. It's actually a really difficult concept for that age level. So the first thing that I would probably say is that when you introduce the word metacognition, have them repeat that word metacognition. Okay, have them repeat it. Guys, today we're going to do metacognition. Everyone, what word are we talking about? Write it on the board. Metacognition. Okay, and especially at this age, they're breaking down words. Okay, is there any word in this word metacognition that you might be familiar with? Mm-hmm. And have them break it down. Some kids might say cognition. They may have heard that word before. Then really like push them. So what is cognition? What do you use in cognition? You know, do you use your arms? Do you use your mouth? Do you use your brain? That kind of stuff. Okay. And then ask them, what does meta mean? They're not going to know what meta means. Like, I can tell you right now, 5th graders, they're not going to know what that means. But they're going to start understanding what metacognition is as you go through the different activities. So that's an area of growth there. Secondly, actually, let's back that up a little bit. Faith knows how to use Nearpod. Okay, she knows. I think she was just lying. All right, when she said she didn't know how to use Nearpod. And this is probably something separate, but if you're doing this online with Nearpod, or even in person with Nearpod, it would always be great to anticipate the fact that some people don't know how to use Nearpod. So create some sort of slide that shows them directions on how to access Nearpod, rather than just go to this website. I think if you have like screenshots on a PowerPoint slide or something that demonstrates to you how to get to Nearpod and how to use it, that might be helpful. Just thinking about the development stage of the students at this time, like, they're probably not going, I mean, they might be more tech savvy than we are. They might figure it out. But just having the word up there, Nearpod, Nearpod, would be helpful, because some kids may not spell Nearpod correctly. Okay, thinking of the different languages that are spoken in your school.
Yes, no, I totally agree. It's just that I think that lesson wouldn't be this lesson, because I think good teaching would require for me to have a lesson on how to use Nearpod. I wouldn't do both things on the same session.
Okay.
So I wasn't prepared for Faith to pretend that she didn't know how to use Nearpod in 10 minutes, because I spent 4 trying to get her to use, and I'm not exaggerating. It was like a very long time, and I was freaking out. So I thought about that, and I think, so I would have a slide for this kind of thing that we're doing, because it happened again. You'll see. In my lesson number 2, it happened again. They didn't know, and they really didn't know what Nearpod was. So I was stuck again with the same problem. But in real life, I would do it much more slowly, and I would have one lesson before I start like getting into the meaty part of the executive functions. I would take care of the technology and the procedures and raising our hand, and you know what I mean, like slowly building up a classroom climate.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I agree. That was just my observation from what I see. Like, and this is why we have this conversation, so that you can tell me also about your thinking. So yeah, thank you for that. And I agree. I think that should be a separate lesson of how to use Nearpod and all that kind of stuff. All right. So moving on. All right, so I like that example of the burgers and sandwich idea. Um, it's a great way to connect the idea, and you're really demonstrating to the students that they're already doing metacognition. They're already doing this activity. All we are doing now is we're putting a name to an activity that they already do. So that was good. Thinking about the burger, they're talking about the burger at the same time they're thinking about their thinking of the burger. So that was good. Perhaps maybe at this point, if you have a longer class, I know this was only like 9 minutes, but like, in a real class, you might have students do an exercise where like you put up other pictures, and you're like, say, okay, what are you thinking about this picture? Just to kind of get them into the habit of like, oh yeah, so here's one example of metacognition. Let's do another example of metacognition and another example, just so that it like really solidifies that they know what metacognition is. I understand this is only 9 minutes. You didn't have very much time, but in a real class, maybe 2 more examples might be good.
No, that's great, because I didn't
Mhm.
think about that with like in the longer lesson plan. So yes, thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, think of it as like an I do, you do, I do, we do, you do kind of thing. Like I'm doing this to demonstrate. Now we're going to do it as a class, and then you do it by yourself. So that's 3 examples right there. So then usually 3 examples, students kind of understand it by that time. I like the drawing. So then therefore you kind of switch from the I'm providing you the image. Now the next one is you're going to provide us an image to do the example of metacognition. So that was good. That was a nice jump. And the other thing that I liked about it was that you kind of like gave a preview of what's happening next class. And that serves as like what I call the closure. So rather than just giving out an exit ticket, guys, what did you learn today? You're also previewing, their further learning the next time around. So that was really, really good. Yeah. The other area so that was all great. The next thing that I would just say is an area of growth or improvement in regards to student development is anticipation. So in your lesson plan somewhere, start scripting out some of the questions that you think students might have in regards to metacognition, because this is a very complex topic and idea. I'm just, from my own teacher preparation background, one of the biggest suggestions that I got was, as you do these lessons, you are going to become much more familiar with what students are going to struggle with and challenge with. Now, I don't think you've done this lesson like in person yet. You haven't. So this might be a little bit more difficult to do now, but like as you start teaching these lessons, you're going to start realizing, okay, what is it that students have trouble with? What do they need more support with? So start thinking about some of the questions or areas that you might need to give more support on for students with metacognition. Because if you just say thinking about your thinking, what does that mean? If you don't have those examples that you have there, they're not going to understand what that is. So just start thinking about, and in itself, that is metacognition. You're thinking about what might possibly come up. So that was good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. So for the first lesson, I don't have to do any evaluations on the Teach Now platform, but the second video ones I do. So is there anything that you want to talk about the first lesson before we go on to the second one?
No, I think you were thinking about the same things that I
Okay.
noticed. It was all about like the Nearpod technology issues. I thought about the metacognition part and maybe making it a little bit longer. And I thought that I needed to have a picture of, and when we were doing it I actually did it with my classroom. And so when we were doing it, I drew I had a slide of a boy thinking about something, and then I screenshot that picture and I put it up here. So it was the boy thinking and then thinking about his thinking. And I think that really helped my students. So
yeah. The visuals are good too.
Yeah,
Especially 5th grade, because you think about it, they're like 10, 11 years old. They still need those visual anchors. They're not high school ready. They're not going to be able to just like read something and know what you're talking about. So those visuals would be really, really helpful. That's a good point.
And writing the word metacognition and then having those examples, I didn't think about that, but yeah.